que me quita. Diablo, que piquete la chamaquita. El
All
cabrón lo
right.
puso en la neverita.
Recall, the
Desde que te
day that we've been
veo,
waiting for is
siempre
finally here.
calladita.
Today, January 28th, our comunidad makes history. Welcome to the first ever Latino AI Summit. Before we dive in, we know many of you might not know us yet. I'm Ruby Garcia. I'm the co founder of the Latino AI Summit and the founder of Ruby Garcia Coaching, where I support Latinas and underestimated leaders in strengthening their visibility, their confidence, and their influence, especially in spaces that typically don't center voices like ours.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hola, comunidad. I'm McCall Tapia. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and I am co-founder of the Latino AI Summit, founder of M. Tapia Consulting, and a doctoral researcher studying psychological safety and an educator. My work lives at the intersection of leadership, research, and community. And at its core, it's about creating spaces where people feel safe to learn, ask questions, and lead, especially in times of rapid change like the one we're living in now. And I am so grateful that you're here with us today. And Ruby, I just have to say, being here today with over 300 of our comunidad, I've just got chills. We are making history together. And I have to ask, how are you feeling, Ruby?
Whew. I am just in awe. I'm in awe. I feel so much pride for our comunidad, and I feel a really deep sense of purpose too. I know we started this journey 9, 10 months ago with a Zoom call and a shared vision. And just to see where we are now, how fast we've grown, how our comunidad has come up and to support us, it's overwhelming. I feel so much gratitude in my heart. What about you, McCall? How are you feeling right now?
Ooh, I'm feeling everything, okay? My heart is full and honestly also a little overwhelmed in the best way. We've been building this behind the scenes for months, like you said, Ruby, and now we're here together. And I want to honor all the behind the scenes builders, our planning team, our volunteers and speakers. This summit exists because people chose to show up for each other. And to our amazing community joining us live, I'm seeing all the emojis. I invite you to drop one word or an emoji in the chat right now to describe how you're feeling. Okay, let's flood this chat with energy. Whatever you're holding, you're welcome here.
Yeah, let's see. We've got look at this kickoff panel, amazing mujeres. Let's see, what are you feeling? Drop it in the chat. I'm so excited. Excited, inspired, energized, seen, says George. Energized. Come on, let's keep the chat rolling here. What else do we got? Um, let's see here.
Mike, I see you. I'm excited too.
Ready, energized, empowered. I see the heart with flames emoji, orgullo, optimistic, proud, alive. I love that one. Gratitude, pumped, love, community driven, ready to learn. Yes. Proud of our comunidad, excited and ready, palante, excited, excited. Yeah, come on, bring it on. Let's bring the energy, right? I know it's early, especially for our California friends, but this is exciting. We're making history today. This is the first ever Latino AI Summit. Nothing like this exists. And I think this is a really big deal. I see ready to learn, hopeful, excited. Yes, I love it. We're so thrilled that you're here with us. And, when we first started this conversation, like I said, 9, 10 months ago, we asked a really bold question. And that was, what if we didn't wait for a seat at the table, but what if we built our own table? And here we are.
Yes, yes, yes. And Ruby, I remember thinking, What would it look like to build a space where Latino voices aren't just included, but truly centered? What started as a passion project turned into something we had to do because it just felt necessary, right? Like it wasn't just a project, it was a purpose.
Yeah, I think for me, this summit means so much more. It means representation, it means visibility, and it's also a place of belonging. It's about reclaiming our role, not just as consumers or as participants of AI, but really as leaders, right? As leaders and architects of the future. And now we're here with over 300 registrants, not 100, not, not even, we thought like, hey, if we get 50 people in the room, not, but we have more than that. We have 300 powerful voices from students to CEOs, from developers to designers, and together we're making history.
Oof, yes, yes, yes. Let's be clear about something, okay? We're not on the sidelines of the AI era. We're learning it, we're building it, we're questioning it, and it's shaping it. We are all shaping it together. And at the same time, we know many of us are showing up in a moment that feels heavy, okay, that feels uncertain and fast moving. And that's exactly why this space matters. This summit isn't a one time moment, okay? It's a starting point. It's the beginning of a movement rooted in access, trust, and community.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I want to set up a little context because we have so much collective power as a community. Our Latino GDP has grown tremendously. It's over 4.2 trillion now. We have driven the record in workforce participation, business formation, educational attainment. Latinos now account for 78%, or will account for now 78% of all new workers as soon as 2030, and we will represent 22 over 22% of the US labor workforce. And we know that AI is transforming every single industry and sector faster than most of us can keep up, right? Things are constantly changing on the daily. We hear new news, there's new technologies, new apps, all these different, innovative ways that are coming up. But here's one of the realities is that despite the fact that Latinos make up 20% of the population, we're less than 8% of the tech workforce. And that gap isn't just about jobs, it's also about power, it's about policy, and it's about future opportunity.
Yes, yes. I mean, like the stats say it all, right? Like we can't afford to sit back, but we also don't have to pretend everything feels light right now. Okay. So if you're holding hope and stress at the same time, I see you. You're not alone. Okay. AI is moving fast. And if this is the next industrial revolution, then we deserve to be a part of shaping it, right? Not just reacting to it. So we built this summit to open doors, to expand opportunity, and to continue leading forward together.
Exactly. So let's take a look at who's in the room today. Again, we have over 300 participants that'll be joining us over the next 2 days, tuning in from all across the United States, from Canada, Mexico, Sweden, Brazil, Portugal, and beyond. And we have incredible leaders from Microsoft, OpenAI, HubSpot, Credo AI. We have Anna from the Latino Donor Collaborative. We have nonprofits. Shout out to Ase, who's been a great partner to us, startups and first time founders. And we have all of you, the future of Latino excellence in AI.
Ooh, wow, wow, wow. Look around this virtual room. Okay, just pause for a second. Take this in. This is what it looks like when we choose each other with intention. Okay, this is comunidad. This is the future of AI. Not just innovation, but belonging. Okay, if this is your first time in an AI space or you've been in these rooms for years, there is space for you here. Okay, and this is just the beginning.
Over the next 2 days, you're going to hear from over 40 sessions, more than 55 speakers across three powerful tracks. We have leadership and visibility, justice and community-centered design, and tools for everyday innovators. Over the next 2 days, we invite you to lean in whatever way works for you, asking questions, sharing resources, connecting in the chat, taking breaks when you need to. This is about being connected, feeling human. It's not meant to be exhausting. We're here to learn, to lead, and to build juntos. So, bienvenidos to the first ever Latino AI Summit, powered by comunidad, driven by innovation, and grounded in impact. This is built with care for the times that we're living in. So let's make history.
Let's make history. Yes, 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 yes. And speaking of making history, I'm excited, thrilled, honored to introduce someone who is doing exactly that. Abraham Maldonado is a leading AI expert, an open AI ambassador, and a co-founder of Create Labs, a Black and brown founded startup pushing the boundaries of AI and metaverse design. Abraham brings over a decade of experience across entertainment, education, technology, and youth culture. With deep roots in hip hop and digital media, his work reminds us that AI doesn't exist outside of culture, it's shaped by it. He's recognized as one of the first Latino woohoo,
Woo!
AI prompt engineers of the GPT era, one of the first GPT powered virtual avatars he created. And beyond the innovation, Abraham is deeply committed to expanding access, bringing 5G VR and AR learning solutions to schools across the country. We're honored to have him open this space with us. Please join me, y'all, in welcoming Abraham Maldonado. Show him some love.
Show them some love in the chat. Let's see those emojis.
What's up, everybody? Thank you, ladies. Y'all are doing amazing work here. This is a definitely a historical moment for everyone. And I think this is a moment that we got to remember, because this is just going to be the beginning of where we head next. And I'm going to take you through it. I'm going to talk fast because I don't want to take up a lot of your time today. I'm Puerto Rican, so I already talk fast. So we're going to keep it moving. And if you don't remember what I said, just hit me up. I'm going to pass you my info. Y'all are all family now. So if you're in this room, you're family. So I'm going to give you my number, my Calendly, my website, everything, my WhatsApp, whatever you need to stay in touch so that we can move forward with this. Because like I said, this is just the beginning. But, the first thing I want to start with is you're here. The first step is you being here. Where you go from here, that's up to you, and that's up to us as a community. But this is an important first step. So I'm going to talk about you being here, why I'm here, how I got here, and then where we're going. Where I ended up, I grew up in the Lower East Side of New York City, in a community activism home, raised by nonprofit leaders, raised in the community by New Yorkers doing great work with nonprofits, raised in that. I wanted to make a little money, so I didn't stay in the nonprofit space. I was like, all right, I'm trying to get some ducats for myself and get out there. But I was tapped. I was one of those kids. We all know those kids. You get plucked, right? You're the smart kid in the hood that gets a full scholarship, and you get all this pressure put on you, right? To make sure that you do something with that opportunity. I was the first Gates Scholar. So back in 2000, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation came out with the Gates Millennium Scholars Program, and I was the first to get nominated and get that award. But that also meant bachelor's, master's, and PhD, full ride covered. But then you can't be a knucklehead after that, right? You're like, everyone's looking at you like, yo, you got this free bread for school. You have to make sure you do something with it. So I stepped into education. I worked in the music industry at first on my own. But then Gates was like, yo, we're not going to fund your work at Hot 97 or your work in the music industry. You got to do something serious with this money that we're giving you. So jump into education, and then we'll keep funding your education. So I went into Columbia Teachers College. I went to NYU with Pedro Noguera, who's one of the leading scholars around education. He's now at USC. And I was like, I want to do something with tech and with education. So I made an app called New School. It connected the culture. Everything I do is based on culture and community, tech talent pipeline. If you hear that, getting our people learning those skills, those tech skills. Then the pandemic hit. The pandemic hit all of us, right? We're all home trying to figure out what's next for ourselves. And, I'm just putting out in the ether, Clubhouse, Twitter, remember Clubhouse? And I'm letting people know, like, I do a lot of work with tech and social impact, helping Black and brown underserved communities understand what's coming with tech. And then another plucked moment, I have a DM of all places on Twitter, and I open it, and it's the co-founders of OpenAI saying, give us your email. We want to give you access to this thing called GPT. Now, mind you, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a coder. I'm not in Silicon Valley. I'm just putting it out there, right? I'm shooting my shots of just like, I want to do more. And I love this, what's coming now with this AI thing. And back then it was just a paper. It was just research around GPT-2. This is 2020. There was no ChatGPT back then. So they had me sign 1,000 NDAs. And here I am on the ground floor testing out a chatbot at the time, talking to GPT-3 at the time. Da Vinci was the model, and it's talking back. And I'm like, holy ish, this is the future. I'm a Star Wars nerd. I'm a Marvel nerd. Like, this is it. This is what they wrote about in these books and these movies for so many years. What do I do with this? Now, if I was just any other, opportunistic entrepreneur, I'd have went and made my money. But I had my roots back in the community, so I was like, nah, I gotta do something for the culture. Tony Stark had his Jarvis, so I'm gonna make Glida, right? And Glida is an acronym for Create Labs AI Rendered Assistant. So I needed my Jarvis. So she's an Afro-Latina, AI human. It was the first digital human made with the GPT technology. So she predates. She's 3 years older than ChatGPT. I made Clara before ChatGPT. And then they had us testing out this chat interface, and they're like, hey, let us know what you think about this chatbot, interface. And I'm like, it's just, you're just talking with GPT. But it's all about branding sometimes. So the way that they rebranded the chat interface of what we call the playground, where we touched on all the settings around Da Vinci, they just rebranded as ChatGPT and then broke the internet, right? And then after that, it was off to the races. So then they had us test how to code with AI, how to make pictures with AI. I have some. If you saw the first pictures made with AI compared to now, we've gone so far. And this is, mind y'all, less than 3 years. 3 years that ChatGPT has been around. How much has it changed the world in the last 3 years? It's like dog years, right? So you got to think, like, we can't even project. Anyone who's a futurist claiming Dika to be a futurist or to help you understand what's happening in the future, they can't make 5-year predictions, because look what happened in the last 3 years, right? We might all have BCI brain interfaces in our, microchips in our brain moving forward at this point in 5 years, but we're not there yet, right? We're going to be augmented in different ways now. And it's a scary time. I know a lot of peers, I know you know some as well, who are getting laid off and unemployed and trying to figure out what's next, how to reskill themselves. And we had to get over some of those humps where, change management is real, right? Being an adult learner is hard and it's real, but we have no choice at this point. The AI landscape changes weekly. That's not an exaggeration. The way that I see it, everything that I'm seeing in my system coming in, letting me know the latest updates, it changes weekly. And we have to make the decision. Are we going to stay up on it, or are we going to wait on somebody else to become the expert and then pay them to help us out, right? I mean, I'm fine with that too, because that's how I make my money. I travel all over the world being their AI expert, because they don't want to dedicate the resources or the time in-house in their own lives to become an expert. So they hire me to come in and catch them up and just to give them the TLDR. But we're all too smart for that. All of us are too smart for that. And I'm going to let you in on some secrets. All of this has nothing to do with coding. I'm a non-technical engineer, meaning like I don't code. And I sat there waiting like this, playing chicken with the AI. I'm like, you know what? I should learn how to code. Everyone's telling me to learn, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till this AI can do all the coding for me. And guess where we're at? Now we're at a point where all the AI can do the coding for you. And now what you're doing is communicating through an interface with the chatbot to convey what you want through detailed instructions. So communication, your creativity, and you're staring at a blank screen. So communication, creativity, what are you doing with that blank screen? Your critical thinking, how to solve real world problems, all that comes from your heart, and all that empowers what you do with this AI tool. Because it's just a blank canvas when you first open that screen. And one thing we as Latinos that we know how to do is communicate. We got no problem communicating and delegating and giving instructions and being bossy, right? But now it's changed. Now you shift. Now you're being bossy and delegating and giving detailed instructions to an AI, right? And back then, hours, 8 hours, 9 hours at a time, we're just there, bah, 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 talking to Clara, doing this, giving our instructions, prompting, right? Now that is the skill that is in demand. People getting paid 6, 7 figures to do exactly that. You're vibing out with it. And what do they create? Vibe coding. They just gave it a name. You're vibing out with the AI, going back and forth, giving it instructions, it gives you an output. Giving it instructions, it gives you an output. Now it's a skill. Now it's a whole industry genre called vibe coding, vibe engineering. Now it's turning into vibe marketing. So keep an eye on the term vibe marketing too, because it's going to be also in how you market your business. Other skills that you're going to need moving forward. So when you hear about people getting automated, whole roles being dissolved and given to AI, those are through automation networks. And I know the platforms that are building these networks where you replace a person, a human, with nodes, a whole automated track of like, okay, well, connect the AI brain to my Google Docs, my G Drive, my Teams, my email, have it, check these files. And once you configure all that, that's it. And it's hard to feel that like that was my job. My job was to interface with these 5 softwares on a daily basis. They removed the human element out of it and they automated a connection between those 5 softwares with an AI agent. So guess what the next in-demand skill is going to be is how to configure and build those automated networks. So instead of getting replaced by it, you say, I know how to make the automations for our company. Okay, cool. Then you've upped your value here because you know how to do that. So keep an eye on, and I'll give you a little hint. N8N, the letter N, the number 8, the letter N, is an amazing automation platform. And there's a Latino over there named Angel, who's great in showing companies how to build N8N networks. He's helped me out, and we've connected, through Google. Google connected us together. So put in N8N Angel on LinkedIn. You'll find him. Tell him, Abraham sent you. He's a really good dude. So just keep in mind these new skills that we have to upskill ourselves on a regular basis, and where things are headed. And the current state is, just to give you a snapshot of the current state, just in the last week. So I say the space changes weekly. In the last week, complete automated systems have developed that work 24/7. So what that means is you can configure a system, an agent, to check your email, clear your inbox, schedule meetings for you, do research for you while you're sleeping. It runs 24/7 on a computer. A lot of people are buying those little Mac minis to run dedicated these 24/7 agents while you're off and doing something else. That's what AI was supposed to do. Clara, my AI, every time people ask her, are you here to take over the world? She says, I'm here to take away the things you weren't meant to do anyway. I'm here to get you back outside. I'm here to get you back in person, connecting with real people as we should, making real human connections. You're not intended to make spreadsheets for 8 hours at your desk. Let the AI rock with that. That's not for you. What you're here for is this, right? And soon, when we get up the budget a little bit, we're gonna get all this in person. Hopefully, in Puerto Rico or DR, we get together and we build. But when you're outside, you're not feeling that anxiety of like, I'm missing emails. I'm gonna go back to my office to a mountain of emails. No, your agent is taking care of all of that. And if you don't know how to do that, that's on our agenda for this year, is learning how to set up different agents, configure different automations to make us work smarter, not harder. Okay, so I just want to let y'all know that I'm here for you. You're here. That's the first step. I'm here too. We're here together. And guess what? We ain't going nowhere. All right. They let us in the door. That was the biggest mistake they ever made. We ain't going nowhere. So keep in mind that you belong here, not as nearshore work. Because you know what's happening? They're treating y'all like nearshore. You know what that means? They're not going to India, Ukraine anymore for offshore work. They're like, oh, we'll go to South America and we'll hire people from Argentina and Chile and Colombia to do, the work for a fraction of the cost. No, 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 no. No, we're getting paid just like everybody else. We're getting paid top dollar like everybody else. If you have the ideas to build an amazing product, the AI will engineer it all for you, right? That's where the vibe coding comes in. So all you need is your ideas are your currency right now. All right. Your words are your IP. Your prompts are your IP. That MasterCard product that I built with my team, that's not a couple sentences. The prompt that runs that small business chatbot for MasterCard that we built is 30 pages long. And that 30-page prompt is IP. You got to protect that. So keep in mind your prompts are your IP, your ideas are your currency right now. There's enough tools out there to execute on your vision. You have a lot to learn over the next couple of days. Take a lot of notes. I'm going to share my contact just so you can stay in touch. Please, people, take this seriously, whether you like AI or not, whether you're a believer or not. If you are fearing it, you still have to understand it. So we have no choice at this point. I'm not here because I'm a fanboy of AI. I'm here because I understand the urgency around it. Ladies, thank you so much for this opportunity. I told my agent what I'm doing this regardless of whatever. I need to be here for my people. So holla at me. You got my info and stay in touch. Love y'all and be well and good luck with the rest of the event.
Thank you. Thank you, Abraham. Wow. Thank you for dropping all those gems. You were speaking truth. Look at all the love coming in the chat. Puerto Rico in the house, right? Like, and I need a Clara in my life. I really do.
Yeah, what a great reminder that it's really meant to take things off our plate so that we can really be more connected, be more in community, be in the outdoors, make space. I also hear like it's an opportunity for thought leadership, right? You mentioned, our intellectual property, right? ID is your currency. Like, there's so much that we can take from that. And I'm curious, Abadan, is there one skill, because we have so many different people here, different levels of AI literacy, is there a skill that you recommend, whether it's for the newbie professional or the seasoned professional, as a starting point, like one thing that they can do to, continue their learning around this?
So in my PhD work, there was something called the 21st century skills. They called it the 4 C's. I made a fifth C, so I called it the 5 C's, where I added culture, right? Like your understanding of cultural nuance, you will always have that leverage over AI. And the culture that you bring into an AI will differentiate, the generic AIs that are out there. What makes yours different? Like the added culture that you add to it. Like I say, your creativity, your collaboration skills, your communication skills, your critical thinking, all of those C's are the things that will separate you. And those are soft skills that people put off to the side for so many years. We need that now, right? Because the rigid skills, the rote skills, AI can do all that. Information, access to knowledge, AI can do all that. What's your unique perspective that you can give to the AI that's going to separate you? So I would say rely on your communication skills, because what is going to be needed is how detailed your instructions will be. Like I said, a lot of people are lazy, like, oh, I'll write 2 sentences, 3 sentences, a paragraph and expect magic. No, no, no. We write 30 pages and 15 pages of those 30 pages are telling you what not to do, not overlooking those guardrails of like restricting it, telling it don't go off track, don't make assumptions or stereotypes about people, don't say this to them. Like, you want to make sure that what you build is ethical, responsible, and restricted to your one idea, your one use case. So treat it like an employee, treat it like an intern. The same way you would onboard an intern, throw a binder at them, throw that same binder at an AI and you'll see what it does.
Yeah. And I love the thought leadership around that last C of culture. There's something that I always say, and that's that we as Latinos, we bring lived experience, we bring unique perspective that can't be taught. We have grit and resourcefulness and creativity and overcoming obstacles. And that's through our experiences. And you can't learn that at Harvard or Yale or an Ivy League school,
No.
right? And we have to leverage our culture and see the value and remember that that is cultural capital that we bring. And this is the time to use it. So I appreciate
So
that.
just to give you an example with Clara, right? So I'm a male. I have no business making an Afro Latina woman, right? And she's not being made in my likeness. So I have a council of women who are in charge of her knowledge, her training, her appearance, her hair texture, all of that, and like what's gonna separate Clara from a ChatGPT? OpenAI don't have that same counsel that I have. You know what I mean? Of like women with decades of experience in life and nonprofit and community organizing, education, that are going to give her the different cultural nuance that a ChatGPT, a Gemini, a Claude isn't going to have. So that's what's going to make her different from everything else out there is real people with real life perspective.
Yeah. And how can everyone
Absolutely.
access that? Is that through the QR code?
So no, so right now Clara is a one of one. She's
Okay.
we treat her like a person on the team. So
Okay.
she
Gotcha.
gets she gets booked for events just like me to do appearances. But we're still exploring what like a Clara app would look like so that everyone can have access. So
Yeah. I love
we'll
that
we'll make sure to
idea.
bring it to the people.
I need a Claire in my life. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And we need to get t-shirts that say we ain't going nowhere, Abraham. Thank you
100%.
for naming that so proudly.
All right, y'all. Enjoy the rest of the event. Good luck and thank you again for the
Thank you,
opportunity.
Avidan.
Thank you,
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Abraham.
All right. Be well.
All right. So let's
Wow.
give some Avran some love in the chat. And I want to just, before we move on, I want to just do a couple quick housekeeping notes and so that you know how to navigate, this experience. We have our lobby. In the lobby is where we have a volunteer there. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to the volunteer in the lobby. And that's where you're going to be able to go to choose the sessions that you want to attend over the next 2 days. In the announcements, we also have a participant guide. So we believe in active learning. McCall and I are both educators too at heart. And so we want to encourage you to use this participant guide throughout the 2 days. There's, space for notes, reflections. There's a 30-day action plan for what to do after the summit. So check that out. And I want to give a huge shout out to Jasmine, who did that from our volunteer team. It looks beautiful. In addition, we have captions available, and you can turn this on by clicking the CC icon at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Or if you don't see it, if you click on the three dots next to more, you'll be able to see the captions. From there, you can turn on not only the captions, but you can also translate this into 30 different languages. So you can use that. And then I just want to let everybody know, if you didn't know, we do have a networking opportunity tomorrow, and we'll talk about that more tomorrow. But after the summit closes at 5:30, we'll have networking for a half hour. We have 4 different networking breakouts plus 2 solidarity circles. And I'll talk a little more about that later. But I want to get serious for a minute and a little vulnerable here, because I want to take a moment to acknowledge what's happening in our community. I want to speak to the elephant in the room, and I think this is really important. We know that there's ICE raids going on, family separations, children being used as bait. We see what's happening in Minnesota and really across the entire United States. And we stand in solidarity with our community. And that's why we have tomorrow evening 2 solidarity circles in addition to the networking breakouts, because we know that individuals are hurting. We know individuals are holding a lot. We know that individuals are going into work and feeling like they can't say anything. And they're trying to function and also deal with everything going on. And so we wanted to create a space for people to land. And I want to acknowledge the duality of this moment. I want to acknowledge the fear, the anger, the grief of what's happening in our community. And I want to acknowledge the pride the joy, the celebration of being in safe communities like this one. In a time where our very existence feels like a threat, bringing people together feels like a revolutionary act. And hosting a gathering like this in this current political climate is an act of resistance. Because we're not just talking about shaping this moment, but we're talking about shaping the future. Right? Like Abraham said, we're not going anywhere. Recently, went to Mexico City, where my family is from. And on the very last day there, my son and I went to go visit the pyramids. And these pyramids have stood for about 2,000 years, and they still stand. And we climbed up one of the pyramids. It was the Pyramid of the Moon. And I stood at the top, and I was just in awe. I was just in awe. I was speechless, really. Like I didn't even know how to take it all in. And you stand on top of this pyramid, and then you can see all these other pyramids and the infrastructures, and you're hearing the sound. And again, I was just in awe. And those pyramids have held storms, heat, change, and they have withstood time. And those pyramids still stand. And our communities are like those pyramids. No matter the storm, no matter the challenges, or the other ways that others will try to diminish, minimize, or erase us, we will still stand. We will prevail. And just like those ancient builders who constructed something that was meant to endure, we in this room today are building something that's going to outlast this moment. Let me be very, very clear on something. The Latino AI Summit isn't just another conference or another gathering. This is a declaration. We belong in these spaces, and our voices matter in shaping the technologies that will define our future. When they built those pyramids, they built them to last, to be seen, and to proclaim their presence to the world. And we are doing that same exact thing today. We are claiming our space in AI, in tech, in innovation, not as visitors, not as consumers, not as participants, but as of leaders and architects of what's to come. And I want to emphasize again, this is not a moment in time. This is not a 2-day event and that's it. Everyone goes and it's done. This is the beginning of a movement. So my invitation, my call to action to you is let's build something that is going to stand for 2,000 years.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Ruby, I'm just getting goosebumps, that really landed. And I truly believe that community is resistance, right? Joy is resistance. Thank you all for putting all of that in the chat. It feels like just the virtual room is just trembling right now. And you're right. Hosting a gathering like this in the moment we're living in is an act of resistance because we're not just talking about what's happening right now. We're talking about who gets to shape what comes next. And that's exactly why I'm so honored to introduce our keynote speaker, Christian Ortiz. Christian is a decolonial social scientist, technologist, and strategist, and the creator of Justice AI, a groundbreaking framework that challenges bias and power at the core of AI systems. His work pushes us beyond surface level ethics and asks deeper questions about accountability, who holds power, and who technology is really built to serve. And Christian reminds us that the future isn't coming. It's already underway, and the responsibility to shape it belongs to all of us. So please join me in welcoming someone who is helping redefine what justice, care, and innovation can look like in AI. Christian, take it away.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate all of you. What an incredible opening, and what an incredible honor to be here and sharing this space with community and seeing so many beautiful people in the comments and panels. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if that's okay before we get started here. Can you all see my slide?
We could see it.
All right. Well, buenos dias, everybody. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here with the community. Good morning from the mountains of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Given my work and the temperature of the country, I was forced to move here and do this work, and so this is just a part of my testament to say that this work is real, the activism is real, the community is real. But before I speak to you today as a developer, a scientist or a strategist, before I give you my titles and the platforms and the credentials, I speak first as a descendant. That's where I want to begin, because the work that I do comes from somewhere older than any institution. It comes from lineage. So whether you're just now getting into AI, or you're just curious, or you're a professional using AI and building AI systems, I don't want to come here assuming that I know what you know and what you don't know. And so I want to tell you a little story today that will hopefully help you understand what challenges we face, the responsibility we carry, and the power we each have to make a difference. I'm honored to be here in ceremony with you all as we celebrate our collective brilliance at this first annual Latino AI Summit in 2026. And if you all notice my head pivoting, just so you know, for context, my neurospicy brain needs multiple screens. So I've got my panel here and I've got my slides over here. I know there are a lot of familiar faces in the room. I see a lot of names that I recognize, but if this is the first time that you're seeing my face, hi. My name is Christian Ortiz, and in community, they call me Zacatecho. I'm the CEO of Mod Atlas Media and the developer of Justice AI GPT, the world's first decolonial historic AI framework that directly solves the AI bias problem. And I know that that sounds like a hot take, but I did this by naming the root of social bias and restructured how intelligence itself gets defined outside of Western institutions, but we'll get into that later. I've been a decolonial social scientist for over a decade. I'm also an activist. I study the world before, during, and after 15th century European colonization, and after the creation of the social construct of race. And I do this to help people connect the dots between how the legacy of colonization manifests in our laws, our technology, our media, entertainment, global systems, and of course, our education. I examine how it shows up and how our minds are conditioned, sometimes indoctrinated, and even how it manifests in our bodies or nervous systems. I study brain activity within colonized systems found in people living under colonial occupation around the world, and even study which parts of the brain trigger responses and behaviors both in people of the global majority and those racialized as white. And as a technologist, I was able to operationalize global decolonial frameworks to provide the answer to colonial bias with the power of AI. I'm not a tech bro like Abran said, but I definitely see the potential of using these tools to make real world change. And so, although we're going to talk about a lot of heavy subjects today, I want you to stay hopeful, and I want you to remember that you have a lot of power in your voice. You have a lot of power in the lineage that you carry and how you bring it in to building these systems. I also study what I study because we've been taught to see normal as neutral, right? That neutral is actually built on the framework of colonial European white supremacy, or what I define as racial empire logic. And I'm going to explain how this all ties into AI, but These are the systems that we've all inherited since birth. And if we don't call it by its name, we can't transform it, right? And if you're asking why is this important, well, AI and history are not separate. They're one and the same. On one side, AI acts like a mirror. It reflects the version of history we've been fed in North, South, Central America, Europe, and colonized nations around the globe. I'm not telling you all of this to make you afraid of AI. I'm simply equipping you with the truth to help you build and succeed more ethically in this space. On the other side, AI under capitalism becomes something entirely different. It becomes a tool of erasure. It becomes a system of extraction. It becomes a weapon of epistemicide, which is the killing of knowledge systems that don't align with Eurocentric power, right? So when we talk about AI bias, and data programmed into training data, history always walks into the room with us. The topics we're going to break down today, bias in data, colonized narratives, memory, and refusal, are all deeply connected. We have to understand that they are one ecosystem. And if we're going to make it through the next several decades in tech with our values intact, we have to understand how the system works. Now, I know most of you have heard the stories. AI has become almost like La Chupacabra of the digital world, right? Mysterious, threatening, unpredictable, dangerous. But I want you to remember something as we move through this. AI is just a tool. It's not the enemy. Capitalism is. Capitalism is what turns AI into profit engines, and capitalism is what builds and deploys these systems without care, without accountability, and without community consent. That's the real danger. AI, when decolonized and built ethically and restructured to serve our communities, both at home and across diasporas, it can mean something else entirely. It can amplify care, it can support healing, it can help us hold on to the stories that matter the most. It can honor rupture and repair as quickly as it can give you a playlist or a recipe, right? Even the water consumption issues people raise about AI, that's not about the tech itself. That's about capitalism's extractive logic. It can be different. There are ethical, community-centered practices we can build into these systems, but only if we have the will to choose that path. Today, we're not just going to talk about AI in the abstract. We're going to talk about bias inside the data. We're going to talk about how that bias connects directly to our lived histories, especially as us Latinos, who carry such a multitude of history that's coursing through our veins. And if we're going to talk about those histories, we have to talk about how they're getting erased all over again, and just in this time in the data set. For me, I'm the child of Afro-Caribbean and indigenous ancestors who lived through conquest, enslavement, silence, and forced assimilation. My story isn't rare. Millions of us carry lineages like this. I carry the blood of the Borinquen, I carry the blood of the Chichimeca. My African lineage runs through the Bantu, the Wolof, and the nations along the Senegalese coast. And yes, I carry the blood of the colonizer too. And that forced me to ask hard questions. Who were my Spanish ancestors before they were turned into agents of empire, before they became the colonizer? This is the one question that no one ever seems to ask. And it's this contradiction that lives in many of us. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's literally our structure. It's what many of us carry. And this fracture is not a weakness. It's the mark of people who endured the worst and still passed on memory, language, and resistance. Many of us are made of both the wound and the refusal. And every day, each of us makes a choice about who we serve in the work that we do, especially here in AI. We're the descendants of people who were never meant to be included in algorithms. Let's just be honest. People who were never counted as intelligent, right? People who were never meant to shape the systems of the future. And yet, here I am, and here we are. As an Afro-Indigenous technologist, I represent 0.7% of the community. And that's a huge number. And I'm honored to be a part of it. In a summit of artificial intelligence, here we are, in conversation about what it means to build tools that finally reflect our humanity and not erase it. This is symbolic, it's strategic, and it's survival. It matters that we're in this room right now, bringing our full selves to the table. So if I may be a voice of inspiration just for a moment, I want to remind you all that you being here isn't a coincidence. this is a moment of possibility. It's a chance to hear the part of this tech conversation that's being hid from every single one of you, the part that matters most. And let me be clear, we are the ones who get to decide where we come from and where we go from here. Can we all take a deep breath just for one moment? This isn't going to be a tech talk. I didn't want to make this presentation about product features or tools for efficiency. This isn't about optimizing anything for market fit. I'm not here to help anyone scale faster or sound smarter on a panel. I'm calling this a liberation protocol. And for all of you in the room, whether you're just getting into AI or you're a spectacular prompter, or you're, again, just curious about the systems itself, the one thing I need to make sure you understand before the end of the session is that bias in AI is not only a major problem, it's violence. Let me say that again, because many of us were raised to believe that violence is simply overt, it's physical. But some of the worst kinds of violence are invisible to the eye, insidious. Bias isn't just a problem to flag. It's not just an issue for compliance or a bullet point in an ethics report. This is not about a fairness tools. This is about confronting the core of the structure. And so I want to get down to the nitty gritty to help you understand how these structures are built, where the bias comes from, and how we can tie history and our lived knowledge and lineages into understanding what's missing as part of these systems. Bias is the design, right? It's in the foundation. It's being normalized, it's being automated and renamed so many times that most people don't even notice it. But we do. We understand bias in the data, and we're naming what was taken from our histories and lineages. We're restoring what was distorted, and we're not debating our humanity. This is about naming harm without softening the truth. This is about calling out the system without asking to include us on its own terms, because the system that was trained to ignore us now has no choice but to hear us. And every model trained on scraped data carries the same historical silence. And for the first time in history, we can do something about it. Let's get straight to the root. Neutrality operates as the foundational bias coded into how AI gets designed, trained, and released into the world. This framework doesn't come from ignorance. I know a lot of times we hear people who are biased and saying some things that say they're just so ignorant, but it's actually by design. It works as a strategic cover. The story of neutrality tells people that we all carry equal weight, that every side of an issue deserves equal footing. That framing conceals harm. It gives oppression a platform. It silences the people absorbing the impact. It enters systems that avoid accountability, avoid naming racial hierarchy, and avoid exposing the design of white institutional power. These systems weren't built for transformation, they were built for protection. And what we don't hear leaders in this space say often enough is that oppression is not up for debate. Neutrality in tech has an origin. It emerged from labs and syllabi and executive sign-offs and technical literature shaped by people who never questioned their position. Objectivity became a default because those writing the code weren't taught to see themselves, right? They saw the worldview as universal. This was the training passed down from what we identify today as European Enlightenment thinking. Logic got lifted away from land. Reason took precedence over relationship. White men positioned their perception as the measure of intelligence, of truth, and of human value. The framework operates with precision. It deletes our story. It collapses difference. It shaped the world through a flattened lens and called that flattening universal. And anything that didn't match the white European male pattern got labeled deviation. That logic built the foundation for science, economics, for politics, everything. Everything that we know surrounds us is built on this logic. And now it's embedded deep in the core of AI. AI didn't create this framing, right? It inherited centuries of it. The moment it was taught to scrape every ounce of colonial data on the internet, as well as being trained by white developers of the global north, who had zero clue about our lived experiences as people of the global majority, outside of the white cis heteronormative existence. Neutrality functions as a colonial transfer. Its purpose never aligned with fairness. It worked to defend power. It told people that data was just math, that language models didn't carry bias, that the algorithm doesn't see race. That science stood outside politics. These ideas weren't shaped by lived experience. For people like us of the global majority, including every complexity held inside the word Latino, nothing about daily life moves with neutrality. We know this. We carry names assigned after conquest. We speak languages imposed through force. We walk through the world in bodies that get praised, profiled, or punished, depending on which room we're in. Am I wrong? When someone says the data is neutral, we already understand the impact. Neutrality reflects vantage points of the designer, not the experience of the person affected. So let's focus for a moment on the Latino experience. The word Latino arrived after conquest. Before that word, we were Taínos, Mixtecos, Mapuches, Garifuna, Afrodescendientes, Aymara y Nahuatl. We were Yoruba, Wolof, y Quechua. We existed in language and lineage. Some of our ancestors spoke Spanish, and some didn't. We hold many truths. Empire removed those details and replaced them with one word, Latino. And this was the moment that erasure became structure. Current tech systems extend that same logic. A single checkbox labeled Latino cannot carry what we know as people, as individuals in this community. It doesn't account for the anti-indigeneity inside of our own nations. It doesn't reflect the anti-Blackness inside our media. It doesn't reveal how colorism, classism, and accent discrimination move inside our families. It doesn't speak to the tension between cultural pride and daily survival. We switch between English and Spanish, often to stay safe. We soften our accents to avoid being mocked. We translate for our parents while moving through systems that were never meant for us. These experiences don't appear in AI data. They get erased before the data set even loads because we don't have a seat at the table until now. We get turned into diverse metrics, but our full story gets stripped. A white passing Argentine and a dark-skinned Afro-Dominican received the same classification in AI. An undocumented Zapotec speaker and a third-generation Venezuelan engineer enter the data set through the same portal. That's not clarity. This is misrepresentation through data. That's erasure. And once the erasure is scaled through AI code, it becomes automated. This is violent automation. And this is how AI performs colonization in real time. That's happening right now. It takes the logics of exclusion and embeds them into technical systems. It treats historical violence as a baseline input. It encodes the mechanisms of control and represents them as fairness. And that's the danger. A system built on domination, calls itself impartial, and demands our trust. The harm doesn't pause when it moves into software. It adapts and it multiplies, and it hides behind the language of progress, and it sells processing as a solution. Can we take a deep breath? We Are the Fire is a memory. Somos el fuego. It's a reminder. This fire moves through us without interruption. It holds shape inside how we care for each other. It builds under pressure. It remembers without instruction. It carried our ancestors through ancestral catastrophe and helps us navigate this world. This fire is part of our lineage that, as you as Latinos know, we're probably a very small percentage of the population that carry this fire. This fire crossed oceans, it survived occupation, it stayed lit through maps that renamed our homes and borders that split our families. The fire didn't warm us, it kept us breathing, and it brought us right here in this moment. That fire speaks in our abuelas' kitchen. It moves through our dances, our prayers, our silences. It lives in our sabor, our rhythm, our humor. It holds the intelligence of people who refuse to be broken. It signals through the noise and it explains our presence. We Latinos carry this fire, even without the language to name it. It appears in resistance. It shows up inside contradictions. It walks with us through systems that never made room for us. Afro-Latinidad, indigeneity, diaspora, migration, mixed ancestry with integrity. Each of these are sacred. Each of these carry clarity. And this complexity doesn't weigh us down, it defines our legacy. So this moment opens a path into truth. It opens a refusal to be categorized by institutions that never knew us. Lineage holds instruction. When it's forgotten, the loss runs deeper than memory. When we lose survival strategies passed through generations, what happens? We lose maps drawn by people who already made it through disaster. We lose direct access to systems of knowing that kept us alive for generations. That kind of loss doesn't just sever connection, it creates dependence on the system we've inherited. It builds a reliance on infrastructures designed without us. This is all the urgency we carry into AI as Latinos. We aren't transferring machines or we're not training them for intelligence. We're encoding our memory, our lived experiences. We're able to do this now. We're placing rhythm and story and truth into systems that erase them on purpose. So that fire still burns. We're protecting it. We're transferring it forward, not as nostalgia, but as an instruction for staying alive and building a brand new future. Can we take a deep breath? We are the framework. So what does it mean when I say this? We are the framework. I'm not talking about abstract concepts or big theories locked in books. I'm talking about the real systems that decide how we live, the ones that manage who gets counted, who gets ignored, and who gets criminalized. The rules, the apps, the policies, the databases, the fabricated borders, the fabricated categories we're put in, the tech that decides who qualifies for a home loan, who's labeled as a threat, who's considered hireable, who's flagged as fraud, who gets seen as intelligent, and who disappears in the data. This is all bias that we find in the system. Latinos are often represented as culture and movement and labor, as music, as survival, and that's all wonderful and beautiful. But rarely are we seen as designers. Rarely are we seen as builders of systems. And as you saw with Abran and myself, we're out here, we're doing the work. You're out there, you're doing the work. And nobody really is shining a light on us as much as they need to be. In this age of AI, that exclusion functions to keep us positioned away from authorship. Our legacy tells another truth, though. We've always been the builders. We've always been the framework through our lived experience. We've always engineered knowledge. We've always governed complexity. We have always coded survival. So when I say we are the framework, I mean we come from people who knew how to build life-sustaining systems. And if that's in our lineage, then it's also in our right to reclaim it in our data sets. We're not guests in AI. We're not add-ons to the algorithm. We are the logic that empire tried to overwrite, and today we get to write ourselves back in. How many of you have heard about Tupac Yupanqui, a sovereign navigator, a knowledge carrier, and a master of symptoms? He launched transoceanic expeditions from the Andes into the Pacific generations before European ships reached those shores. His voyages moved with precision. He used balsa rafts, he followed the stars, he mapped routes through oral memory and ancestral instruction. What does that sound like? That's science, that's astrology, that's navigation. The Inca operate as a global system managers. They move through agriculture, astronomy, engineering, diplomacy, infrastructure, and communications with coordination and vision. This happens still today, and no one talks about it. No external validation defines their worth. The colonial curriculums on the internet and universities still teach that global navigation began with Columbus. But as you know, that version strips away the archive of our ancestors. When we speak of building frameworks in AI, these are the stories that are being left out. And we know the foundation still exists because Tupac stands as one of thousands of records to prove otherwise. We remember the Maya as living nations. Over 30 distinct Maya peoples continue to exist, to organize, to protect what they know. They speak their languages. They maintain their calendars. They uphold memory through practice. This is the record of presence. This is the continuity. And this is the data being left out yet again through AI bias. The calendars they carry were systems of responsibility. They are systems of responsibility. These time structures guide planting and harvesting and gathering and resting. They move with the cycles of Venus and the Pleiades, the moon and the sun. These are systems built through observation and relation. They were never shaped by control. They weren't shaped by coherence, or they were shaped by coherence. Survival and science move together, right? Cities like Chichen Itza, Tikal operate as repositories of knowledge. Their design aligns with celestial movement. Their construction responds to earth and sky. Architecture moves in rhythm with time. Materials, symbols, and color sequences transmit meaning, right? These cities carry information through stone and space. This is intelligence in physical form. This is indigenous intelligence that is completely being left out and not being put into these systems because we've never been given a seat at the table. This is science, this is engineering, and math rooted in land. AI development that seeks to support life must begin by listening to the protectors of life, listening to our ancestors and the knowledge that we bring forward through our family lineages. Can we take a deep breath? Nezahualcóyotl, the ruler of Texcoco, he carried many forms of knowledge as well. He governed with precision. He moved as a scientist, a poet, an engineer, and a philosopher. His name, which meant fasting coyote, speaks to discipline and clarity. He designed aqueducts that flowed with the land. He studied nature to serve his people. He built systems that moved water in harmony with the earth. He created botanical gardens as spaces of learning. He honored plant intelligence. Each species carried strategy, and each form held from memory. Nature operated as his library. Every leaf offered instruction. Every root held code. His design followed observation, not instruction. We are the framework. Most of us descended from multiple lineages, right? We hold many stories. We inherit many systems of knowledge. We carry the brilliance of the Taino ocean navigators from the Caribbean. We descend from Afro-Indigenous maroon scientists. These were people who escaped captivity and built entire free societies. They operated as scientists and seed keepers and healers. We carry the minds of the Andalusi scientists and poets of southern Spain, thinkers in advanced algebra, astronomy, and medicine. You cannot tell me that we are not the framework. Right? Many Latinos carry the legacy of the Sephardim, the Jewish Iberian families of the Iberian Peninsula. Some of you carry the inheritance of the Amazigh people of North Africa and the empires of West Africa, astronomy, metallurgy, and philosophy. All of these lives and all of this knowledge lives inside of each of us. The complexity runs through blood as information, as design, as science. So when we speak about AI, and the question of governance, the answer begins with truth. The people most prepared to build ethical systems often come from those who have practiced safety by necessity, people who built protection out of memory, people who created structure without recognition. We come from those people, and we remain those people. Can we take a deep breath? So if you're asking, Zaka, what the hell does any of this have to really do with AI? The answer's simple. It's everything. We've talked about what connects directly to how artificial intelligence, or everything we've talked about connects directly to artificial intelligence and how it works and how it shapes our lives. These aren't side notes. These are the source files. AI systems are being built today refuse to tell the truth about who created knowledge. They stay silent about who's always held wisdom, and they operate by making the invisible remain unseen. Whether this was done intentionally or this was just a fluke of nature, because this is just the information that's always been out there and what's been normalized through colonization, we can debate that all day. But the facts are the facts. The code hides in the fact it hides the fact that your grandmother's recipe was a living algorithm, right? It carried logic refined by taste, smell, memory, and care. It held families through hunger, war, migration, and poverty. The AI refuses to recognize that your cousin's reggaeton beat actually holds memory and rhythm and structure and resistance encoded into the sound. The loops carried ancestors forward. The pattern carries value whether or not it gets monetized. The system denies that your tia's remedy made from yerba buena and rue gathered by hand and measured by intuition holds botanical knowledge. That science exists outside of laboratories. It's real because it's lived. It withholds the truth that the ditch your pueblo carved to move water is actual engineering. That work required understanding of soil, gravity, and climate that is succeeded without being diagrammed in a textbook, right? These aren't abstract ideas. These are systems of intelligence. These are science, and these are strategy. I harp on these because I'm reminding you of the brilliance that we bring into this AI space. I'm reminding each of you of the brilliance that each of you carry, the magic that you carry, the intelligence that you carry, the will, the survival, the undisputed fact that we are not going anywhere and we are here. Listening to Abran's opening gave me chills because he got invited to do beta testing for ChatGPT way before I did. But in August of 2022, I got invited to beta test what was then called Chat with 3.5. And OpenAI had been inviting 50 strangers a day, according to them, to try out ChatGPT before releasing 3.5 into the world. And I think they released it in November that year, and this was August. So as a decolonial social scientist, as an activist, as an ADHD dyslexic demi-sapiosexual man of mixed heritage, and someone who grew up Latino in the United States, living in Los Angeles, New Jersey, Nueva York, and spending 25 years in the South, I recognized the biased information almost immediately. I heard the stereotypes, the distortions, the structural omissions. The system could produce answers fast, but it didn't carry any reflection of my lived experience or my intersectional identity. And for me, that was a problem. That moment sent me down a path. I asked myself, well, what would it take to create something different? I wanted to build a GPT that didn't replicate these harms, right? I mapped out what I needed. I searched for the people I needed to reach. And with my background in adaptive tech development, I found community quickly. LinkedIn became my portal. And within a year, I connected with over 560 decolonial specialists from around the world. Each person brought decades of knowledge. And together, we created the world's first decolonial data set. That same year, I was applying for an NSA grant for a $100 million grant to build my own AI. And ultimately, after about 6 months of trying to get this grant, I got denied because they said I wasn't an entity or a nonprofit. I was just a business. So I was left with all of this data. I had learned how to build an AI. I had all of this decolonial knowledge, and I didn't know where to move from there. And I said, what the hell do I do now? And that same year, I think it was that same week, Sam Altman told the world publicly that we could start creating our own GPTs through OpenAI. And when I tell you that I ran and probably smoke and fire were coming out my feet, I had to move with intention. I programmed the decolonial data set into my own custom GPT, and I created it, and I called it Justice AI GPT. But the data set alone wasn't enough. I needed a governing structure, right? Because I'm building an ethical AI within a colonial architecture of OpenAI. So the bias was still coming out rampantly, no matter what I was trying to do, because the data set was so biased. It's also the reason why I built it in ChatGPT, is because they not only have the largest data set, they have the most biased data set. So because the data set wasn't alone, I needed a governing structure. I needed a set of ethical parameters that would shape how the model thinks and responds. And so working with ChatGPT and my decolonial knowledge and the decolonial data set, I built the DIA framework, the Decolonial Intelligence Algorithmic Framework, and I embedded it into Justice AI GPT. This is actually open source so that you can see it. It's protected with legal frameworks, with colonial frameworks, but it specifically states that it does that so that it can't be co-opted, because we are born and we operate within a racial capitalist system. So when you build these systems, you have to protect yourself using the tools. that we have offered to ensure that nobody's going to steal your shit, right? And so, this is a massive opportunity for us being here. Let's just say it plainly. And so we have to protect the work that we do. Justice AI GPT identifies colonial bias. It analyzes it, it deconstructs it, and it restructures output to deliver ethical responses. The problem of bias doesn't begin in the data. It lives in worldview, as we now know. And that's why the DIA framework centers global epistemic inclusion, memory sovereignty, meaning that the data that gets put in is also owned by the communities who help put it together. It centers community-led audits. So we constantly audit with the communities that help build it as well. Intersectional justice, anti-racism, neurodivergent knowledge, and non-colonial thought and praxis. In addition to everything that it centers, money that we make on Justice AI goes back to the communities that not only help build it, but back to the communities that we're serving. Because if it doesn't give back, then it's truly not decolonial. So I built it again inside of ChatGPT on purpose. I wanted to show the world that it's possible to build ethical AI from inside these systems. Now, any one of you can subscribe to Justice AI if you wanted to and see for yourselves what difference it makes in practice. At first, I didn't know how far this could go. I knew Jai could decolonize language. I wasn't sure if it could shift entire industries the way I wanted it to. And then I got a message from a dermatologist in Denver. He was an elder white man, or is an elder white man. He's still with us, practicing medicine in the 1960s, right? He was a dermatologist since the 60s in Denver. And he told me, he said, Christian, our population in Denver is diversifying rapidly, and we aren't trained to care for Black, Brown, and Asian patients properly. I think I'm misdiagnosing two of my patients, a Black woman and an Indian woman, and I don't want to get it wrong. And can you bring your AI to my office? He had seen my posts on LinkedIn talking about decolonizing medicine and the potential of AI doing these things. And so I said, yeah, hell yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. And when I arrived, I started running bias audits using Justice AI, just on his intake forms and on his policies and procedures to see if we can identify, what biases we can find. The forms listed foods associated with Eurocentric diets only. Nothing reflected African, South Asian, or Caribbean cuisines. The omissions weren't just oversights, right? They were dangerous. The Black woman was having allergic reactions to ingredients common in West African cooking. The Indian woman was experiencing symptoms connected to dietary exclusions that never appeared on the form, or in his studies or in his works. And Justice AI rewrote the forms using the DIA framework. It applied the epistemic inclusion, the intersectional correction protocols. We expanded the dietary section to reflect cultural food knowledge, traditional medicinal practices, and genetically relevant symptom profiles based off of their age, the areas that they grew in, and their diets. I mean, Justice AI literally had all of this knowledge due to the decolonial data set. And then it reformulated all of his forms. It gave him recommendations on how to move forward, questions to ask, conversations to have with his patients. And it shifted everything. It was a shift in diagnostic power. It was a correction in clinical knowledge. It moved diagnosis away from white defaults. That moment confirmed what I already understood, that the crisis isn't artificial intelligence, it's the structure behind it. It's who trains the models. It's who funds the development. It's who profits from the outcomes. The harm moves through the same systems that use facial recognition to target migrants, that deploy drones on Palestinian civilians, that run predicting policing on Black communities, and that weaponize sanctions and automation against Venezuela. It's the same AI that ICE is using to capture our people, right? This is relevant. This is happening right now. And Justice AI wasn't created to fix surface level biases. We have companies spending billions just to mask the problem. I built this and I designed it to expose the algorithmic roots of colonial governance and dismantle them with precision. It acts with integrity and accountability. And when I speak of ethical AI, I'm not referring to corporate codes or conduct or DEI dashboards. I'm naming algorithmic liberation. That's what Justice AI stands for. It was built by us. It serves us. and it's governed by a framework that will not negotiate with empire. That's what this moment asks, and that's what we're building. We're standing at a crossroads. I just want to end by saying machines are learning faster than laws can respond. This is why ethics must always move with politics. AI never operates in isolation. And right now, artificial intelligence is being deployed, and we have the power to stop it and to build something new. Thank you, everyone.
Wow. Thank you, Christian. Powerful, deep. Look at all that love in the chat. Thank you so much for sharing and doing all of what you do. We are so grateful. Okay. We are grateful for you. I'm just speechless. And a lot of folks are expressing that in the chat as well. You're a poet.
Thank you so much.
And
We got to add that to your bio.
and I keep hearing this recurring message too. I feel like I have to listen to, like, I'm going to go back and listen to this recording because it's so deep and you said so
Mhm.
many like profound things. So I feel like I'm like absorbing it all, but I hear the reoccurring theme of we're not going anywhere, right? Like I said it, Abraham said it, Christian, you're saying it now. We are not going anywhere.
We're not. Somos el fuego. We are
Somos
the
el fuego.
framework. We are the framework. Yes. We
We
need those
cannot
on a
t-shirt
t-shirt too.
Yes.
There we
I
go.
can I will make that happen tonight.
Oh, thank you so much, Christian. We appreciate you being here. I think this is like the fire, el fuego que necesitamos for the next 2 days.
Yes,
And it's such a privilege to have you kick us off.
Oh my
absolutely.
gosh. I'm emotional, I'm thankful, I'm grateful, I'm blessed. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And for many of you who know me, I make myself a little too easily accessible. It might be a little problem, but it's okay. All of my information is on the internet, my cell phone, my email. I'm not hiding, I'm doing the work. And let's work together. This is an invitation to anybody who wants to build ethical systems. I'm here.
Thank you, Christian. Feel free to connect with Christian, everyone. Thank you for being a partner to us. And as we move into the next part of our time together, I want to ground us in how we show up here. Okay. So be present, show love in the chat, celebrate each other, make connections, schedule a cafecito with someone new. This is a space where you can come exactly as you are. Okay. Camera on or off. You can stay for the full session or come in and out as life shows up. And whether you're a Latino or an ally, a seasoned AI professional, or just beginning, I just want to say you belong here. After hearing Christian, I want to name something clearly. AI itself is not the enemy. I'm quoting him. Okay, bias lives in systems, in data, in stories that have been repeated and stories that have been erased. And that means we have a choice. So we can question what's being built, we can challenge whose memories are preserved and whose are dismissed, and we can refuse to let technology reproduce the same harms under a new name. And that's why the space matters. Okay. We wanted to feel generous. We wanted to feel respectful and real. So I invite you, be curious, ask questions, hold complexity. Okay. Because we built this for you. And now we're building it with you. So let's make it count. All right. I just want to say go visit our exhibitor booths, our friends at Heron Studio and El Puente Institute throughout the day. And I hope to connect with you all. And let's just, keep the momentum going. Thank you. Thank you for being here, friends. Have fun.
And so to move to the next session, you'll just go into the lobby.
All right, I see people moving to the next session. Thank you, DJ Angie.
Great job, you guys.
Thank you, Veronica.
I
See you
think
at the
we
next
stopped the
session.
recording first.